we have understood the basic object-oriented concept. Now it's time to see the syntax of the Objective-C. How Objective-C is different from the other programming language, okay? And let's see the syntax. When I say syntax, there are only two things to learn about: how to declare a method and how to call a method. Now before going into a syntax, we have to first see something called NS object. Okay, so a class is called an Objective-C class only when if it inherits from class called NS object. So you might have a class, say student, inheriting from the human, but human should inherit from the NS object in order to say it's an Objective-C class. So the root class for any Objective-C class is NS object. You can say it's a singleton class which is responsible for creating all the classes or all the object in Objective-C. You can create your own NS object, but then you have to write all those frameworks which supports and which are supported by the NS object. So any class is told to be an Objective-C class where it inherits from the NS object. So NS stands for next step, where the Objective-C was created. Okay, now any object which is derived, say I use vehicle V1. When V1 will be created, it will have two pointers, ID and ISA. So pointer ID indicates it's a unique identifier. Any object has a valid ID valid address. It says is a valid object, but runtime system needs more information beyond the ID. He needs, okay, what is the hierarchy of this class? What object, this object belongs to which hierarchy? What function he can perform? What is the state? So a runtime system needs some more information which ID cannot supply. So there is something called ISA or ISA pointer. Now this pointer contains the entire template of the object. What it belongs to, which hierarchy it belongs to, what are its states, what are the methods. So when a function call happens during the runtime, first the system checks the ID value. If the ID value is valid, he then internally do an interception with the ISA and ask ISA whether this method belongs to this particular object. If yes, then the control is sent to that part of the code. So ID and ISA are the pointers which has great significance. So ID is nothing but a unique identifier. So whenever an object gets created, an ID is assigned to it, and ISA contains the entire template. Now let's see the syntax of the Objective-C. Now I told you Objective-C is another programming language only, object oriented, but it has some wow factors. Okay, so let's take the same example of vehicle. So a vehicle can have, let's decide two methods. Okay, one with an argument, one without the argument. So vehicle will have a function, say get vehicle type, which doesn't take any argument, and we have, say, another function, say create vehicle, which takes 3 arguments, say vehicle type, the type which will be an integer, name of the vehicle and the color. Let's make it simple. So we're going to see how other language create the functions, declare the function, how they have been called, and here we're going to see Objective-C way. So I just name other way and Objective-C way. So first we want to see the normal way. So how do you want to declare? I would say in other language like other C++ or Java, I would have declared int get vehicle type. This is the way I would declare a method. Okay. Now, how would I call this method? Suppose V1 was declaring some function or some part of the code, and it would have called this way: int a equal to V1 dot get vehicle type. Everyone agrees with this? This is a syntax in other language we use. Now we are going to see the corresponding syntax in Objective C. So in Objective C, a function, every function will have a sign, precedes with the sign plus or minus. Either plus or minus sign needs to be there. The significance of plus and minus sign we are going to see later on after we complete the syntax session. Okay, all the data type, the return type or the data type of the argument will be in round braces. So int, and followed by the function or the method name get vehicle type. No parenthesis after the function name or the method name. Now how it gets called? Int a equal to square brackets v1, there is no dot operator, it's replaced by the space, get vehicle type. There is no wow factor, it's just adding to my complexity right now, but then we have to use it because this is the way the Objective-C syntax are. So plus or minus sign we are going to take later on. Either one of this is required. All the return type or the data type will be inside the braces, round braces. Get vehicle type is a method name, semicolon, there is no parenthesis. When it gonna get called, it will be inside a square bracket, object, space, and the method name. Now here we say v1 is an object and get vehicle type is a method name. In Objective-C terminology, we say v1 is a receiver and get vehicle type is a message. So normally we say get vehicle type is a message sent to receiver v1. Okay, so till now I didn't see any wow factor, but let's assume this is the way only we have to use it. Now suppose we have one more function, one more method with the argument. So in other language we say void create vehicle, I would say int type and say color. So I am creating a vehicle with type and a color object. Okay, how will I call this? v1 dot create vehicle, say type is 1, color say red. Just have, so a vehicle, it has two parameters. One indicates the type and red indicates the color. Similarly, how will I declare in Objective-C? I will have plus minus sign, void, okay, create vehicle, colon. Here arguments are separated by the comma. Here we have colon, space colon. So colon, I told you all data type will be inside the round braces. Space, the comma is replaced by the space and colon. Space, colon, color, and variable. So there is no wow factor till now. It's just adding the complexity. Arguments are separated by comma. Here they are separated by the space and colon. The data types are inside the round braces. Now how it will be called? I say v1 create vehicle type 1. There is no comma, space, colon, say red. I didn't see any wow factor till now. It's just adding to my complexity. Now what do you mean by best practice? I say function should be written in the best practice. So when someone just concentrate on this line, I want everyone to just concentrate on v1. Whenever you see this line in your code, someone else sees in this line in your code, he cannot understand what one represent, what red represent. He have to go to definition or declaration, sorry, and check out, oh, one represent the type and red represent the color. So it's good, but then I cannot understand by just a function called what the variables are representing. Now suppose this is two-way. Some people say some expression you can order the argument inside a function. So you can have create vehicle with type and color. Okay, for the 2 parameters it sounds good. But what if your function takes 10 or 12 parameters? Your function name becomes too big and it's very complicated to read also. So Objective-C have introduced a concept called labeling the argument. It's a language which allows you to label each argument, and that's why it's called best practice. So every argument in a function can be labeled. So it's always label colon the argument. So when you read the Objective-C statement, it's nothing but a simple English statements. So the same function in a best practice in Objective-C would be written in the following manner. So I would have written the same function in Objective-C like this way: plus minus void create vehicle with type in type color so here color, the text left hand side to the colon represent the label for the argument COL. The first label becomes a part of the function name itself. So whenever a method or the message or function or the method has the argument, we say the function name is nothing but the label to that argument. So it's always label, type and the argument name. That's where the Objective-C wants you to declare a method. So now how it will call? So I will say I have to call this. I will say v1 create vehicle with type 1 color red. Now at any point of time when you read this line, it's just a simple English statement which says create vehicle with type 1 and color. You don't have to go to the declaration and see, oh, what 1 represent and what red represent. So this is a wow factor. By just simply adding a label to the argument, it made the reading of the function call or the statement so easy. So this is called a best practice number. So all the function names are nothing but a label to the argument. Okay. So this function and this function are two different signatures. So you cannot declare this way and call this way. Not allowed. So these two signatures are entirely different signatures. Okay. So out here, in terms of function overloading, we say we have different argument with a different data types, right, to the same function name. Literally in Objective-C that's not possible because they give you a provision to add a label to the argument. So I say add two numbers, add two integer numbers. So I will say add two numbers, int number int 2 with a int num2. If I want to add the same function, it will be add two float numbers. Add two. So because of that flexibility, function overloading is not done in Objective-C because each argument, each context can be given a name, which makes the code much more readable. So I guess everyone have understood the syntax, right? Now let's see the significance of the plus and minus sign.